that's old, huh? Nope. It kind of makes you want to break into song. Yep.
영수준이 개발한 자율주행 자동차가 서울 도심에서 특선을 보였습니다. 운전자 없이도 알아서 움직이는 자율주행차.
이젠 스마트폰 하나로도 내 집 전등을 쉽게 켜고 또 끌 수가 있죠. 이런 개념이 도시로 확대된 것이 바로 스마트 시티인데요.
스마트 시티는 안전하고 편리한 미래형 도심과 동시에 대한민국 혁신 성장의 플랫폼입니다.
deal.
They wanted these sanctions lifted in their entirety.
Right in the midst of the financial crisis, immediately post-COVID, a person came on the scene by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi was the
주요 가상화폐 가격이 급락하면서 손해를 보는 피해자들이
JP Morgan is creating its own cryptocurrency and is becoming the first major US bank to do so.
네, 먼저 기조 특강으로 글로벌 블록체인 그리고 토큰 이코노미의 현재와 미래에 대해서 듣고 5분의 업계 전문가분들이 리뷰를 덧붙여 주시겠습니다. 이어 차례로 5분의 발표가 준비되어 있습니다. 글로벌 블록체인 그리고 토큰 이코노미의 현재와 미래라는 주제에 이야기의 문을 열어주실 디콘의 임성은 대표님 모시겠습니다. 임성은 대표님께서는 블록체인 어드바이저리 서비스 회사인 디콘의 대표로서 많은 블록체인 프로젝트의 컨설팅 경험을 갖고 계십니다.
네, 이게 아침부터 이렇게 와주셔서 감사합니다. 사실 디콘이라는 회사를 설명시켜주면 디콘은 그 소프트웨어를 아시는 분들한테 저희 회사를 레드햇이라고 말하고요. 일반적으로 친숙하지 않는 분들한테는 맥킨지라고도 하는데요. 저희 회사는 크게 2가지를 합니다. 첫 번째로서 기업들이 블록체인을 도입하고 싶다면은 그 부분 앞단에 들어가서 어떻게 도입해야 될지 자문해주거나 실제로 블록체인 프로덕트를 저희는 시스템이라고 하는데 그 시스템을 설계하는 일을 하고 있습니다. 그리고 프로덕트로서는 이런 블록체인 프로덕트에서 이렇게 쓸 수 있는 미들웨어 솔루션들을 만들고 있고요. 제가 사실은 오늘 이런 이제 키노트로 연설로 쓴 거는 저희 회사 이제 고객들 중에 일부분들이 이제 흔히 말하는 대기업이나 이제 정부기관들이 많고 이분들의 실제로 사업을 바탕으로 해서 블록체인의 적용 가능성을 저희 회사들이 검토한 결과 실제로 이러한 현상이 앞으로 다가올 생태계에 어떠한 의미를 가지는지를 조금 논의해보기 위해서 이렇게 연서로 쓰게 되었습니다. 해가지고 일단은 첫 번째로 던진 말은 블록체인 마켓의 상황은 기업들 단에서는 오히려 관심도가 올라가고 있거든요. 시장의 상황은 흔히 말하는 베어마켓이고 비트코인의 가격은 거품이긴 하지만은 아직도 이제 기업들의 관심이 올라가고 있기 때문에 실질적인 가치가 토큰의 가격과 연동되지는 않습니다. 그래서 오늘 키노트의 바로 이제 주제는 조금 거창하긴 하지만 거인들이 어떻게 움직이나 이런 부분에 대해서 좀 논의를 해보고자 합니다. 2018년에 이제 블록체인이 가장 화두가 됐던 거는 기업 간 솔루션에 초점이 되었습니다. 그래서 이거는 흔히 말하는 것처럼 IBM의 이제 월마트가 같이 출시한 트러스트 체인이죠. 바로 이제 음식 간의 바로 SCM이나 바로 식품 이력 등을 관리할 수 있는 것에 대해서 분산 원장 개념으로 다가가서 실질적으로 이게 어떻게 쓰일 수 있나. 아니면은 IBM과 머스크가 같이 합작해서 만든 트레이드 렌즈에서 글로벌 물류 시스템에 있어가지고 블록체인이 아닌 분산 원장이라는 개념이 어떻게 이력을 투명하게 관리하고 비용을 줄일 수 있나. 즉 한마디로 기업들 간의 솔루션에 있어서 분산 원장이라는 개념 자체가 어떻게 혁신을 가져올지에 대해서 집중하는 게 2018년도까지 이슈였습니다. 실질적으로 뭐 수치도 나쁘지도 않습니다. IBM과 머스크가 같이 한 트레이드 렌즈 같은 경우에는 물동량 처리가 현재 4밀리언, 즉 400만 건 이상의 물동량을 처리했다라고 하거든요. 이거는 작은 수치는 아닙니다. 그럼에도 불구하고 이제 2019년도에서 이런 말씀을 드리는 이유는 2018년도까지의 화두는 블록체인이 아니라 이제 뭐 분산 원장이었습니다. 아시다시피 각지에서 일어나는 뭐 투기와 그다음에 뭐 비트코인에 대한 거품 얘기 이런 것 때문에 정부 기관에 대해서 기업들이 어떤 크립토 커런시의 C자만 나와도 가지는 부정적인 태도와 규제의 불확실성으로 인해서 기업들은 이거를 검토하지 않았으나 2019년도부터는 이상하게도 이제 거인들이 토큰을 발행하고 있기 시작하는데요. 대표적으로 디지털 플랫폼이라고 하면은 우리가 쓰는 대부분의 플랫폼이 페이스북, 텔레그램, 라인, 카카오. 페이스북에는 아시다시피 왓츠앱과 인스타그램까지 포함되어 있으니까 글로벌 사용자비만 더 커지고요. 파이낸스 영역에 있어서는 대표적으로 JP 모건이 토큰을 발행했습니다. 이제 특이한 것 중 하나는 JP 모건급 때는 이제 거대 금융기관이라면은 분산 원장이라는 개념을 도입해서 정부 기관의 눈을 피할 법도 한데 토큰을 발행한 것이죠. 이게 이제 뭐 쉽게 설명하자면은 비즈니스 전체를 흔들어 놓을 수 있는 블록체인의 가능성을 인지했다고 하는데 사실상 이제 메인 이유 중에 하나는 바로 이 토큰이란 것이 없이는 분산 원장이라는 개념만으로는 기존에 쓰이고 있는 기업들에 있어서 비용적인 가치를 가져다 주지 못한다는 것을 기업들이 인식했기 때문입니다. 실제로 현상을 보면은 작년까지 2018년도에는 IBM의 하이퍼레저가 흔히 말하는 대세였죠. 그래서 하이퍼레저는 대표적인 이제 리눅스 재단의 블록체인 플랫폼 중에 하나로서 대부분의 기업들이 이 하이퍼레저를 분산 원장이라는 개념으로 각 본인들의 사업 영역에 적용해서 쓰고 있었는데요. 2019년도부터 들어서는 이제 하이퍼레저를 회피하기 시작했습니다. 우선은 첫 번째로서 기업 플랫폼이 종속화가 되거든요. 블록체인은 기본적으로 본인들의 비즈니스 로직이나 계약에 대한 모든 사항을 장부 위에 올려놓고 이거를 스마트 컨트랙트라는 시스템으로 강제하는 것이 띄고 있는데 실질적으로 내가 IBM의 하이퍼레저라는 플랫폼을 쓸 시에는 내가 가진 비즈니스 인프라가 그대로 남의 기업에 있어서 종속이 되는, 즉 한마디로 M&A가 당하는 효과를 가져오기 때문에 회피하고 이제 디콘이나 저희 회사나 아니면 아이콘이나 각 분야에 특화된 기술 영역 회사라고 자체 체인을 운영하거나 아니면 바스라고 불리는 블록체인에서 서비스를 이용해서 이런 종속화를 회피하려는 현상이 지속되고 있는 거죠. 그리고 두 번째로는 이제 암호화폐라는 개념을 이제 도입한 가장 핵심 이유 중에 하나는 블록체인이라는 시스템 자체가 사실은 본질적으로 말할 때 기술적으로서 굉장히 이게 벽이 있는 기술은 아닙니다. 저희가는 이제 흔한 말로 이제 블록체인의 인공지능과 암호화, 뭐 클라우드 시스템 이런 것과 동일하게 여기지만 블록체인은 기술적인 장벽이 굉장히 낮습니다. 블록체인을 도입할 때 가장 문제가 되는 것은 흔히 말하는 사회 비용, 즉 각 비즈니스 참여자들의 합의에 대해서 비용이 증가하는 거고요. 실질적으로는 이런 기술적인 비용이 낮기 때문에 기술적인 비용이 낮단 말은 누구나 도입할 수 있지만 반대로 말하면 기술적인 이점을 주지 않고 그거를 메꿔줄 수 있는 하나의 이제 거대한 큰 틀이 없으면 블록체인을 도입할 필요가 없다는 것이죠. 그 맥락에 있어서 실제로 암호화폐라는 개념이 블록체인과 같이 할 시에는 강력한 시너지가 날 수 있다는 게 이제 흐름입니다. 물론 이제 개론적으로 말씀드리면 상용화까지 해결해야 될 이슈가 성능, 실질적으로 서비스를 운영하려면은 안정성이 있어야 됩니다. 기업들이 운영하는 서비스는 기본적으로 밀리언 단위 이상의 트랜잭션이 요구되는데 현재 이런 요구 조건을 충족할 만한 퍼블릭 블록체인은 나오지가 않았고요. 사용성. 블록체인은 실제로 써보신 분이 계신다면 아마 UX가 굉장히 불편하다는 걸 느끼실 거예요. 일반 서비스와 달리 접근성이 떨어지고요. 그다음에 세 번째로는 이제 변동성이죠. 변동성 같은 경우에는 뭐 많이 해결할 수도 있지만 실질적으로 비트코인의 가격이나 이런 이더리움의 가격 같은 걸 볼 때 많은 분들이 크립토 커런시라는 것이 화폐로서의 가치에 대해서 가지는 가치 변동성에 대해서 의문을 가지고 있고, 네 번째가 사실은 가장 큰 이슈입니다. 규제 불확실성에서 정부 규제기관과 금융기관들이 가진 부정적인 인식과 이런 부분들이 바뀌지 않는 이상 기업들에 대해서 이 부분들이 적극적으로 도입되기는 힘들 거라 하고, 이게 가장 큰 장벽으로 남아있을 거라 하는 게 현재까지 이제 이슈입니다. 그럼에도 불구하고 이제 기업들이 지금은 하고 있는 것들이 바로 이제 기술에 대한 시범 적용이고, 두 번째로 이제 지속적인 모니터링입니다. 그러면 이제 본 메시지의 바로 K.E.Y, What's Next에 대해서 짚어보자 합니다. 블록체인 영역에서 가장 필요한 현상은 바로 이제 원장 대비입니다. 원장은 쉽게 말하면은 집에서 쓰는 가계부라고 보시면 됩니다. 내가 어떤 행동을 할 때 모든 것에 대해서 이거는 인터넷에서 트랜잭션, 데이터라는 형태로 남고, 블록체인은 이 트랜잭션, 장부를 공유하는 가장 기본적인 형태를 가지고 있는데요. 결국은 이 원장을 이루는 것이고, 원장을 바탕으로 해서 무엇을 하려냐 할 때 블록체인에서 쓰이는 것이 바로 이제 토큰과 스마트 컨트랙트라는 개념입니다. 그래서 스마트 컨트랙트는 조금 더 설명드리자면 원래 블록체인 때문에 나온 개념은 아니고요. 90년대부터 컴퓨터 사이언스 영역에서 존재하고 있던 프로그래밍의 개념입니다. 그래서 디지털화된 상황에서 우리가 어떤 행동을 할 때 서비스의 행동을 강제로 계약으로 만드는 거예요. 그래서 우리가 실질적으로 법률 조항에 쓰던 모든 계약문을 디지털화된 시스템을 옮기고 이게 시스템에서 강제돼서 실행이 된다라고 보시면 됩니다. 하고 이 스마트 컨트랙트에 의해서 움직이는 실질적으로 경제적인 가치가 있는 어떤 데이터들을 저희는 토큰이라고 부르는 것이고요. 이제 이거를 바탕으로 해서 프로덕트를 만들 때 첫 번째 주제가 바로 이제 하드웨어 회사는 헤게모니를 누릴 기회가 올 것입니다라는 좀 거창한 메시지인데요. 백그라운드를 설명시켜드리면 지금까지 이제 하드웨어 회사들은 소프트웨어 회사들한테 굉장히 이제 지배당하고 왔습니다. 흔한 말로 이제 화웨이, 삼성, 이제 LG 등의 각 회사는 본인들이 소프트웨어 플랫폼에 대한 파워를 가지고 있지는 않습니다. 안드로이드나 실질적으로 그런 핸드폰에 대한 플랫폼을 제공하는 회사들의 운영 정책에 따라서 본인들도 트랜잭션 수수료를 내기도 하고, 그다음에 그 사람들의 요구 조건에 대해서 많은 것을 갖췄는데, 이상하게도 블록체인에 있어서는 하드웨어 회사들이 굉장히 힘을 가질 거라는 전망이 지속되고 있는데요. 이게 기술적으로 설명드리자면 블록체인의 본질은 사실은 다른 걸 다 떠나서 피어-투-피어 통신망 기반 분석 원장입니다. 쉽게 설명드리자면 기존에 저희가 쓰던 인터넷의 통신망 시스템은 망 단위의 망 시스템입니다. 즉 국가가 단위의 통신 시스템이고 회사 대 단위의 시스템인데, 블록체인은 이거를 조금 더 레이어를 쪼개서 들어갑니다. 즉 저와 아니면 다른 누군가가 개인적으로 소통을 한다. 바로 이런 가정 자체, 피어-투-피어가 블록체인의 기본인데요. 블록체인의 또 하나의 핵심은 바로 이제 월렛입니다. 블록체인을 쓰려면은 이제 저희가 말하는 핵심 요소 중에 하나가 토큰인데, 토큰을 접속하려서 가장 기본적으로 쓰여야 될 것이 바로 이제 지갑입니다. 토큰이라는 경제적인 자산을, 암호화 자산을 안전하게 보관해 줄 수 있고 이 자산을 보낼 수 있는 일종의 컴퓨터 역할을 하는 것이죠. 그러면 이 월렛의 핵심이 뭐냐? 바로 이제 보안입니다. 특히 블록체인 월렛에는 두 가지 종류가 있습니다. 콜드 월렛이라는 개념이 있고요, 하드 월렛이라는 개념이 있습니다. 하드 월렛은 흔히 말하는 저희가 온라인에서 쓰는 일종의 가상화된 상태에서 구현되는 지갑 시스템을 말하고요, 콜드 월렛은 망 단위, 인터넷의 접속이나 통신 시스템이 차단하더라도 그 암호화 자산을 보관해 줄 수 있는 일종의 칩 베이스 기반의 설계가 반영되는 월렛을 말할 때 저희는 콜드 월렛이라고 조금 더 말합니다. 즉 콜드 월렛은 통신 단위가 끊겨도 쓸 수 있는 블록체인의 지갑 시스템을 말하고, 하드 월렛은 통신 단위가 오픈되어 있을 때 오가는 시스템을 말합니다. 그래서 저희가 거래소들에 대해서 자산을 안전하게 보관하고 있냐라고 말할 때는 일반적으로 거래소들이 자산을 콜드 월렛에 보관하고 있습니까를 말합니다. 근데 피어-투-피어다 보니까 사실은 저희에게 있어서 가장 기본적으로 피어 단위가 되는 것은 지금 가지고 계신 스마트폰입니다. 핸드폰, 노트북, 스마트폰, TV 모든 하드웨어 자체가 인터넷이나 통신망 시스템에 접하기 위해서 처음으로 접속하는 피어가 되거든요. 즉 사용자들이 토큰 기반 디지털 서비스를 이용해서 가장 먼저 접하는 것이 이 하드웨어입니다. 아이러니하게도 기존에 저희가 쓰는 소프트웨어 시스템에서는 저희는 하드웨어를 생각하지 않고 바로 소프트웨어 영역으로 뛰어들어갑니다. 제가 페이스북에 들어가면 핸드폰을 킨 다음에 페이스북에 대해서 자동적으로 락인이라는 이름으로 부르는데, 페이스북의 하드웨어의 현상을 거치지 않고 들어가는데 문제는 블록체인에 있어서는 이런 하드웨어의 개입이 없이는 현실적으로 힘듭니다. 즉 하드웨어 기반 회사들이 토큰 기반으로 분산화된 경제에서는 수혜를 얻을 수 있는데요. 이게 흔한 말로 AI 시대의 반도체 회사 이런 느낌과는 조금 결이 다릅니다. AI 시대의 반도체 회사는 단순하게 인프라를 공급하고 AI를 지동하는 것이 이런 알고리즘을 뜨면 블록체인에서는 정말 시도 자체가 하드웨어 회사를 거치지 않고는 못 들어가는 상황입니다. 즉 삼성과 같은 하드웨어 베이스 회사가 더 이상 소프트웨어 기업에게 지배당하는 구조가 되지는 않을 것이라고 하는 게 저희 입장이거든요. 결국은 삼성이 탑장 월렛에서 쓰일 수 있는 토큰 발행성이 매우 크고 이게 제가 4주 전에 발표 자료를 이제 드렸는데 이제 3일 전에 삼성이 자체 토큰을 발행한다라고 뉴스가 나왔거든요. 이게 기본적으로 왜 그러냐면 하드웨어 회사들은 이미 블록체인의 기본이 되는 수많은 피어들을 보유하고 있고 블록체인의 본질은 피어-투-피어 통신입니다. 즉 피어의 숫자가 많을수록 플랫폼의 힘이 강력해지고 서비스의 가용성이 넓어지는 거죠. 또한 마찬가지로 근신의 블록체인의 가능성을 보여주는 분야는 아마 금융이 아닐까 생각합니다. 그래서 왜 금융에 쓸모가 있느냐 하면은 일단은 시장 규모 자체가 굉장히 큽니다. 글로벌 송금 시장 규모가 의외로 620조 정도가 되고요. 이런 글로벌 송금 시장을 제치더라도 각 그 금융 분야에서 발생되는 분야는 일반적으로 말하는 농업이나 제조업 분야도 훨씬 파워가 있습니다. 또한 금융은 블록체인의 본질적인 특성과 잘 어울립니다. 금융에 있어서 사실은 기본적으로 요구가 되는 건 하나는 일단은 인프라나 규제기관, 금융인프라나 규제기관의 개입이 있어야지 금융사업을 전개할 수가 있고요. 두 번째로는 장부에 대한 관리 시스템이 있어야 됩니다. 근데 블록체인에 도입할 시에는 바로 이 두 가지 이슈를 해결합니다. 첫 번째로는 스마트 컨트랙트라는 개념 때문에 오게 됩니다. 규제기관에서 요구하는 이제 규제 준수나 이런 명시성에 대한 법적인 강제성을 본인들이 시스템 내에서 녹여낼 수 있고 이거를 바탕으로 해서 금융기관의 가이드라인을 완벽하게 따를 수가 있습니다. 두 번째로서 요구되는 금융 인프라 같은 경우에는 본인들이 보유한 피어를 바탕으로 해서 자유롭게 조금 소통할 수 있고요. 마지막으로 금융 인프라에서 가장 중요한 이제 원장 공유, 즉 은행 같은 시스템은 바로 이제 장부를 기반으로 해서 비즈니스를 하는 기관입니다. 본인들이 클라이언트들한테 돈을 1,000원 예치한다면 1,000원이 예치됐다는 기록을 가지고 금융 사업을 벌이는데요. 블록체인에 있어서는 이 원장 시스템 자체를 모든 기업이 쓸 수 있기 때문에 은행들만 눌리던 장부 기반의 비즈니스에 진출할 수가 있습니다. 그러면 이제 이 금융 서비스를 가지고 무엇을 할 것이냐라고 볼 때 바로 이제 플랫폼 기업들이 들어오기를 원합니다. 왜냐하면 금융이라는 사업은 기본적으로 마진이 굉장히 남는 사업입니다. 3C라고 부르죠. 캐피탈 코드 컨텐츠는 언제나 스케일러블한 비즈니스이기 때문에 기존의 회사에서는 바로 캐피탈 영역에 들어갈 거를 호시탐탐 노리고 있었는데요. 페이스북과 텔레그램의 예시를 들었지만 블록체인의 금융 서비스에 필요한 것은 사실 본질적으로 볼 때 PI입니다. 즉 스마트 컨트랙트라는 법적인 강제성을 실시할 수 있는 것은 이미 시스템 내 구현이 가능하니까 일단은 본인들이 금융 서비스로 다가가기 위해서는 금융 서비스를 쓸 사용자층이 존재해야 되고 저희는 이거를 피어라 부릅니다. 근데 기존의 플랫폼 기업들은 이미 수많은 피어들과 노드를 존재하고 있습니다. 그래서 페이스북이 이거를 왜 하냐면 결론적으로 숫자가 많기 때문입니다. 버클레이즈의 아날리스트 기록에 따르면 2026년까지 왓츠앱이 스테이블 코인으로 얻을 이익은 연간 30억 달러에서 190억 달러 정도로 예측하는데요. 중간치를 잡아도 못해도 10조 원 정도는 벌어들인다는 뜻이거든요. 이게 아무런 하드웨어에 대한 생산 비용이나 그런 것들도 들지 않고요. 기본적으로 이게 가능한 이유는 페이스북이 본인들의 플랫폼을 바탕으로 해서 토큰을 발행하고 글로벌 레미턴스 시스템을 지원할 때 본인들이 토큰 가치가 일정하더라도 토큰이 오갈 때 되는 일종의 트랜잭션 피, 수수료만 떼더라도 해서 얻는 수익이 30억에서 190억 달러로 예측되거든요. 결국은 기존에 있는 플랫폼 기업들은 금융 인프라를 갖출 필요가 없고 규제 기관에 대해서 강제가 되는 법적인 사항들을 스마트 컨트랙트로 옮길 수도 있기 때문에 금융 사업에 진출할 수 있는 일종의 기회장이 열린 겁니다. 즉 기존의 인터넷 기업들은 규제 기관의 허들이 낮아진 금융 영역에 블록체인을 발판으로 진입할 것을 예상하고 있고 실질적으로 대부분의 저희가 알고 있는 메신저 회사들은 이 부분을 준비하고 있습니다. 즉 내가 피어가 있다고 하면은 굳이 안 들어갈 이유가 없다. 이게 바로 현재 상황입니다. 결국은 기존 기업들에 있어서 던지는 메시지는 비슷합니다. 결국은 비트코인을 가지고 블록체인의 기술을 보기에는 이 기술이 생각보다 기업들에게 노다지가 되는 영역이 많습니다. 대표적으로 하드웨어 회사들은 더 이상 소프트웨어 회사들한테 지배를 당하지 않고 본인들이 일종의 비자 카드가 될 수 있습니다. 삼성이 글로벌 비자 카드가 될 수 있어요. 그 핸드폰 키스토어 월렛을 이용해서. 그리고 페이스북이 은행의 역할을 대체할 수도 있고요. 대표적으로 은행에서 가장 마진이 많이 나오는 사업 중 하나가 기업 금융, 송금 시스템, 그다음에 랜딩 시스템인데 이 모든 것의 기본이 되는 것은 바로 규제 기관에 대한 요구 사항과 그다음에 이거를 운용할 수 있는 금융 인프라의 확장인데 이거를 블록체인이 대체할 수 있다라는 것이 시장 예측입니다. 그래서 뭐 결국 전하고자 하는 메시지는 똑같습니다. 이 블록체인이라는 기술이 생각보다는 파급력이 크고 비트코인의 가격과는 반대로 기업 입장에서는 이걸 준지하고 있었고, 그다음에 이 핵심 무브 중에 하나가 바로 저희가 말하는 토큰이라는 겁니다. 그래서 시장에서 거인들은 움직이기 시작했고요. 이 모든 것은 피어투피어 통신과 스마트 컨트롤 특징의 결합, 거기다 이제 흔히 말하는 토큰이 들어오게 된다면은 범위성이 커진 블록체인 기술들이 바로 이런 블록체인 기술을 도입하는 선두 주자들의 시장 지배력을 강화할 수 있지 않을까라고 하는 것이 저희 입장입니다. 결국은 시장 논리입니다. 그래서 블록체인은 시장 논리에 굉장히 적합한 기술이고요. 가장 이제 본인들이 피어만 보유가 되고 있다면은 이제 전 세계에서 가장 거대한 금융업을 벌일 수도 있고, 그다음에 늘 그렇지만 플랫폼 효과입니다. 블록체인도 기본적으로 소프트웨어를 따라가기 때문에 락인이라 부르죠. 내가 이 서비스를 쓰기 따르면은 이 서비스를 쓰는 이상 이 서비스에 종속이 되고 시장에 늦게 진입하는 기업일수록 시장 상황을 뒤엎을 가능성은 사라질 것입니다. 네, 이상입니다.
글로벌 블록체인 그리고 토큰 이코노미에 대한 디콘의 임성훈 대표님 기조 특강을 들었습니다. 네. 이어서 5분의 리뷰를 들어보도록 하겠습니다. 먼저 아이디어를 나눠주실 리뷰어 5분들을 모시겠습니다. 먼저 드레이퍼 아테나의 페리하 대표님입니다. 페리하 대표님께서는 벤처 투자가로서 중국, 한국, 미국 특히 실리콘밸리에서 활동하고 계시고 다양한 고성과 기업의 이사회 멤버십니다. 5분 이내로 리뷰 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다. 질문은 5분의 리뷰 후 한꺼번에 받도록 하겠습니다.
Thank you. Good morning. Pleasure to be here. I really liked Brian's presentation regarding the fundamental value of cryptocurrency. What I thought I would do is actually to add a few of my thoughts. Having been a venture capitalist for past 20 years in Silicon Valley, I really enjoyed the sitting in the front row of what has been happening in this space. And I have seen nothing like it in the last 3 years. And for past 20 years, I've seen a lot of ups and downs of the technology. But I've seen nothing like what I have seen and what has happened in cryptocurrency. As you can tell, I've seen the epic rise of the values or prices of Bitcoin, Ether, and others, and also the dramatic fall. And then very recently, a slow recovery of those prices. So it's been extremely interesting. If you think about the Bitcoin prices went up to 20,000, came down to 3,000, back to about 5,000. Ether's went up to as high as 850, that came down to about under $100, recovered close to $200 now. So a lot of people keeps on asking this question regarding where is cryptocurrency or blockchain technology headed? But oftentimes people ask the question with the premise that if the prices of these cryptocurrencies don't rise, that means the adaptation or the future of the blockchain technology is at jeopardy. And that is certainly not the case. And I think Brian's presentation, he really talked about it. He said, it's not about the price of these the cryptocurrencies, it's rather about the value. Okay? So I would actually add a little more thoughts to that, but before that, I would actually answer this way. All the technologies that we have seen past 100 years that have developed, people always go through the early phase of hype. People expect far more and value far more of a particular technology for its potential. So people tend to overestimate. So there's a hype period, and then that subsides, then people crash and people step back. And then people tend to underestimate for the future. So if you look at the tech bubble in year 2000, the early onset of internet, people really expected far too much. And you know exactly what happened. There was an overhype and the market crashed. But look at where we are. And I don't think people have expected that we would be embracing the technology so much. The internet, the penetration of the internet, penetration of smartphone, broadband, and people certainly have underestimated the extent. So let me pause and say that I think we have gone through a very similar experience with cryptocurrency and the blockchain technology. So I would argue to say, consistent with what Brian was saying, the fundamental value of the blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies is here to stay, and I'll add a few more of that. So let's think about the cryptocurrency, the decentralized ledger, and the value. The reason I fundamentally believe, philosophically speaking, the value of cryptocurrencies, number one, it is decentralized. As you know, we think that we believe in K.E.Y, Chinese yuan, US dollars, but ultimately it's all arbitrary. There's a central bank that keeps certain portion of gold and other precious metals and as reserves, and then everything else is floated. And just because more people use it doesn't mean it's stable. And oftentimes, the central banks end up putting together policies, fiscal or monetary policies, to curb or to increase the activities or the value of the currency. And those are fundamentally not necessarily market-driven. You would like to see it to be market-driven, but it's not. Because of the geopolitical games that people play, the policies of central banks are driven by political motives. On the other hand, if you look at cryptocurrencies, no one really controls it. So therefore, we have philosophically the opportunity to have a currency that can be the basis for global transactions without having any political bias. So I think that's actually a huge piece. And the second piece is the fact that it really can be market-driven. If you like it, if you use it, the value will be stable, it continues to go up. And if you don't use it, the value will go down. So it's fundamentally market-driven. And then lastly, we have an opportunity related to the privacy. We all create data, and we throw it up there in social network, Facebooks, Instagrams, and whatnot. But every time I upload my photos or videos to Facebook, for example, Facebook makes all the money. I don't. But we have an opportunity where we can use a blockchain technology and then layer YouTubes and Facebooks and other other user-generated content social networks where the users benefit economically for uploading or viewing or using the content. So this could fundamentally change the way we look at our own data. So we have a destiny. We actually control the destiny of our own data that's generated. And in fact, there's a small startup in Korea called Fanzi, and they have about 60,000 users. I think it's growing. It's under the radar, but it's really growing rapidly in its own way. And they have fundamentally used blockchain technology and layered YouTube content on top. So each time you watch a YouTube video, you actually see a little ticker where you continue to collect coin that's issued by Fanzi. So these things are happening, and I hope they make it out and become very successful and make a statement regarding the next generation of social network based on blockchain. And then lastly, on the value, there's also a practical value for cryptocurrency. Let me give you another example of a company that I'm involved in. Very early stage, very high beta, meaning high risk, high pay kind of situation. I'm in Silicon Valley. Some of you may know that cannabis industry is really taking off because 10 of the states in the US have legalized the cannabis industry. But federally, cannabis is still illegal for consumption. So what ends up happening is all the banks that are federally licensed and then insured would not touch any of the players in the supply chain of cannabis. So what ends up happening is a wholesaler would want to buy cannabis leaves, and they'll bring a bag full of cash, $50,000, $100,000, drive over to a grower of the city somewhere, and then exchange a cash transaction. Same thing happens between the wholesalers to the processors, from processors to these dispensaries. This, in California alone, is $7 billion industry. You can't imagine that $7 billion are going back and forth on the streets of a car. So this is actually inviting a lot of crimes. So you remember Willie Sutton, the famous bank robber from the Western days, who would go rob banks because that's where the money is. But now actually there are already incidences where some of these cars were transporting cash gets robbed. So the company called Zeus Technologies is actually using the blockchain-based tokens to clear all the members of MLL, KYC issues so they become members. Within them, they can actually start transacting businesses without having to move cash around. So I'll pause here for now, but I think fundamentally we are at a stage where blockchain and crypto technology has gone through the hype, and then now it's fundamentally in some ways more stable way. And if you can take out some of the traders, I think we can start seeing fundamental adoption of the technology, and for both philosophical reasons and practical reasons, I think this technology would be here to stay, and I think I look forward to seeing this technology being an integral part of what we do. Thank you.
페리아 드레이퍼 아테나 대표님의 말씀 들었습니다. 이어서 라마 아이어 회장님입니다. 인도에서 가장 큰 블록체인 기술 회사의 회장님입니다. 총 책임 기술자이자 라마 아이어 회장님은 인도 주 정부 부처의 블록체인 기술 도입 어드바이저로 활동하고 계십니다. 5분 이내로 말씀 부탁드립니다.
Thank you, Yun. Namaste, Korea. Happy to be here. So first of all, it's always a pleasure. This is my 6th visit to Seoul. I like the place, especially I like the Gangnam area more, but I think we are not there. So I am the president and CTO of 1101. 1101 is India's only and largest blockchain protocol. We are trying to kind of bring India online. Obviously, we have been behind. We kind of missed the first bus, but I think not so bad, because a lot of learnings, a lot of things that comes when you kind of play the waiting game. Especially a country like India, which is 1.2 billion people, the fastest growing economy, ahead of China actually, for people who are not following it. There is a lot of opportunity to be tapped for various businesses, for various things. In fact, I was a little amused and puzzled that yesterday it was all about Brexit, it was all about US and China. I think there is a large piece of the puzzle that we are missing here. And I think I'm here to kind of obviously talk about India, what are the potential and what are the partnership opportunities. And then where blockchain comes into the mix, the challenges I'll kind of dwell into after a minute. What we are trying to do obviously is a core protocol blockchain layer. I think the question that begs or that needs to be asked is why another protocol? And I think I'll start with that. Obviously, as I said, a protocol is part about the technology itself and part about market access or building a market or bringing it online. So we are looking at it from two different angles. One, we have built the largest set of partnership that is possible, starting with a strategic partnership with Tech Mahindra, which is a $1 billion engineering services company. And the way we have positioned our protocol is, it is a hybrid. It is both a public and a private variant. And I'll kind of explain why that as well. In terms of partnership, we are partnered with 4 state governments in India. We have a dozen dApps that we have shortlisted for our testnet and working closely with them. We are partnered with 50 universities in India who will obviously be trained on 1101 protocol. Students will build dApps, and they will also be part of the incubator where all the ideas will be hashed out and they will be accelerated through the journey. 50 colleges would seem like a large number, but for size and scale of India, it is still small. We want to bump up that number to 500. And what that allows to do is bring in a huge development ecosystem that is needed because blockchain today is very complex. And I don't know why. It just happens to be that it takes a lot to build applications on it. It is not at the point where it's a Windows operating system, you can write any kind of programs easily. And I have been talking to a few of my friends who are trying to solve, whether it is at an L2 acceleration layer, whether it is with SDKs and stuff, so that we can make it simpler. And I think there is a room for all of us to work together. We also intend to build a blockchain district, which is one of the largest blockchain ecosystem in the world, which will bring together all the blockchain players. And I'm advising the government closely of how to do that and things of that kind. So that's a quick about 1101, the protocol itself, and where we are. In my opinion, the challenges for blockchain are, I think today it is too complex, whether it is to build applications, whether it is for people like us, laymen, to even kind of go open up our account or buy and sell. One would wish that it is as easy as you go to your super utility store, to your 5S, and buy something with your card. It is just few seconds. I mean, in the blockchain world, how many people use wallets or do trading? Buy, sell crypto? Oh, wow. Okay. I thought there would be a lot more hands, so I think for people here, there is some work to be done. I think the reason also is why not a lot of people have come on is it is complex. I mean, you figure out which wallet, you figure out your private keys, you have your key stores, and you have whatnot. And then there is this whole hoopla about, if you lose this, you lose all your money. I mean, go figure out, whom do you want to complain, right? So I think the onus is on people like us to make it simple, to make it secure, for people to kind of, come into exchanges, for people to come, invest, and things of that kind. And obviously, the second challenge is what is happening with all this cryptos and the price. Obviously, it is gone through that cycle of overhype, and now it is kind of obviously dubbed down too much more than needed. But I think it's the classical model of how everything evolves. Having said that, I think I'm of the opinion that there is too much talk about things like TPS, which I think off late it has died down. And I think people are now trying to be more realistic in terms of, is it open enough? Is it flexible for people to use? And I think the speaker before me kind of touched upon it. Today, in terms of we need the likes of Decon to be there to help corporates, to help people learn more about what blockchain is and how to kind of work with it. So I think we are trying to do a little bit of that to make it better, to get more of the hands up so that you guys can participate in the blockchain movement. And I think that's a quick introduction from my side. Obviously, we'll dwell into details more. But yeah, I mean, hope you guys have a good time. And please ask us more questions on blockchain. I think we have a good set of dozen people here who should be able to answer everything. So yeah, see you later.
1101의 라마 회장님이었습니다. 네. 다음으로 가래찐 대표님입니다. 가래찐 대표님께서는 디지털 자산 거래 전문가로 글로벌 탑티어 암호화폐 거래소 비트포렉스의 CEO로 이끌고 계십니다. 5분 이내로 말씀 부탁드립니다.
Hello everyone. I want to say thanks for having me here. I'm Gary Jin, CEO of Bitfinex, one of the leading cryptocurrency exchange. Lots of interesting topics have been shared: blockchain technology, tokenization, and cryptos. As I have been running exchanges for 5 years, so I think I could add some of my understanding and experience about the cryptos. We launched Bitfinex early last year only, so it was just a year and a little bit. And now we are top 10 cryptocurrency exchange, and our daily trading volume existed at more than $200 million per day. And we are serving users, more than 2 million users from more than 200 countries. And the fascinating thing to me is that actually we are serving users from more than 200 countries, as we are only providing language support for 5. And yes, so sometimes I ask my team and myself, hey, are we so good at marketing globally? And of course we are, but I believe it's more to do with the cryptocurrency industry itself. Yeah, let's look at the ICO boom in 2017. And because of the ICO boom, it ignited the bull market in 2017 for cryptocurrency. And by then, we can notice projects, no matter they are from the US, from Japan, from the UK, they could raise funds in cryptocurrency in China, in South Korea, in basically any market in the world. And on the investor side, no matter they are from different countries, they could invest into projects from any other countries also. So to me, this is really fascinating. Actually, this was not something happened before. So I believe this is the reason the ICO could reach to a global, much bigger global audience. So that was the reason it could make such a global impact, even though perhaps ICO itself is not perfectly designed as a financial tool. Yes, so in 2017, ICO was really hot, and nowadays we're talking about the IEO. But behind it, I believe, is the nature of crypto, which is actually doing the work. And perhaps ICO and IEO is not the final form of the, maybe there is no final form, but I believe there will be something better designed, new things coming out. But what exactly it is, actually, also people keep asking me. Honestly, I don't know what exactly is the new thing afterwards and something better. But to me, I believe it will be something more open, more transparent, more decentralized, so that it could bring more audience to the crypto world, and it could bring more fairness to the market. Yeah, at least this is what I believe. And yesterday, I was quite interested into the topic when Dean from Heritage Foundation shared that economical and political environment in China is going to more restricted, now to the open direction, which I don't think is really good. But let's look back into the history. Actually, our choices are like going like this, like a little bit more freedom, not too freedom, some more freedom, not so much freedom, things like this. Until something happened, maybe a technical breakthrough, or it's a philosophy enlightenment or something, and we get to another level, which any individual could have more freedom. I think blockchain could serve as one of the catalysts for us to go into a higher level of freedom. And to me, I think blockchain is more like a great experiment for all human beings. I see it as an experiment. I mean, we could succeed. It could take longer time. It could even fail, actually. But I'm not so worried, because every time it fails, we find something else which would succeed eventually. So, but as one of the practitioners in the field of crypto, actually, I will work to my best and also with everyone to make this time succeed, actually. Yeah, this is what we are trying. Yeah, thank you. This is what I want to share. Okay.
네. 가렛진 비트포렉스 대표님이었습니다. 네. 이어서 조시아 호님입니다. 조시아 호님은 암호화폐 초기 투자자로 암호화폐 자산거래 회사인 QCP 캐피털의 파트너이시고 로켓 인터넷과 함께 글로벌 이커머스를 구축하신 경력을 갖고 계십니다. 5분 이내로 리뷰 말씀 부탁드립니다.
Thanks. I'll try and keep this as short as possible. I've been very fortunate to be involved with e-commerce and a few other waves here in Southeast Asia and across North Asia. E-commerce in the early days, then Uber and mobility more recently, and as an early investor in Gojek and a few other companies, I've seen payments go and build really fast across the region. And now I'm one of the founders at QCP, which is a market maker. We facilitate hundreds of millions of dollars worth of trades across exchanges, as well as about $1 billion a month in OTC volume. We spend a lot of our time focused on the capital markets flow of crypto. So thinking about crypto derivatives, we run the largest options book at the moment, so Bitcoin and Ether options. And for us, this is a core part of the space. So from my perspective, I've been very lucky to see a lot of changes in consumer adoption across the space. And we're still very much in the horse and buggy pace, right? At Uber, I was arrested like 3 times in 3 different markets. And that was not fun, but it was a part of the learning story as well. And that was, again, because I was working very closely with regulators across different markets, and I've seen what it takes to change the rules so that something can thrive. In the crypto space, this is something extremely relevant, and we're very, very far from any sort of market maturity. Right now, I mean, I can give you one example. We own an exchange in Indonesia. It'll be the first regulated licensed exchange, but even then, we're very much in the early adopter phase. To give you some perspective, in Indonesia, not so long ago when color printers came out, color ink for printing at home, the first thing they did was they tried to ban color printers because they were afraid people would try and print money, right? That's the level of understanding you have with many regulators in this space, and that's the challenge many of us have today. So let me also, in the short amount of time I have, share some of the insight we have from being practitioners and traders in the space. Bitcoin's been around for some time now, and if you were to look at implied versus realized volatility in the market at the beginning of the year, dollar yen, Apple stock had bigger standard deviation moves than Bitcoin. Bitcoin looked like a more mature asset in the early part of the year versus where you see it now. I think there's still a lot for us to learn about how this is going to become a mainstream financial asset. For many of the reasons stated by my colleagues here on stage, there's huge potential for the technology. But I think what a lot of people don't see is that a lot of people are already using it as a capital markets instrument to move capital cross-border, offshore, as a more efficient way to get around a lot of the issues with capital controls and FX. Nowhere more relevant than here in Korea, where back in the day there was the, as they called it, the kimchi premium. We were one of the guys who were, arbing in the early days, moving a lot of fiat in and out of Korea, and that's what traders do. They arbitrage to create efficiency. It's still like that in many markets, and that is a function of inefficient centralized governance. But it does serve a core purpose. We have clients who buy from us very, very large amounts of cryptocurrency. These days, specifically stablecoins. If you were to look at an OTC desk like us in Europe or in the USA, they would be doing maybe 70 to 80% in token flow, meaning Bitcoin and Ether. On the flip side, you look at us here in Asia, we do 80% stablecoin flow because, Asian financial crisis is still pretty fresh in everybody's mind. A lot of people still don't trust the financial systems and their own currencies here in Asia. So they'd much rather buy the dollar or a tokenized version of the dollar, which is why you see a lot of Tether or TUSD. You might have heard of some of these products in the market, which are essentially dollar-backed tokens. We have some clients who, imagine the guy, and maybe you've had this experience yourself, who calls a bank trying to get control of his finances, and after being transferred on hold like 10 times, just gives up. I have many, many clients that are high net worth, have 20, 30, $40 million in the bank, and they've taken at least 50% of that and just converted it into stablecoins. And that means they're sitting on a shadow banking layer, which is forming now on top of the existing centralized system. But most people won't see this because the nature of cryptocurrency is to be P2P, decentralized. You don't have a lot of reporting around this, which is why it's very hard to tell you about it, very hard to report it, and very hard to verify it. So take my word for it. There's a lot of people already doing this, meaning they put more trust in a decentralized unit of exchange than in double entry bookkeeping with centralized institutions and regulations. I think when that wave starts to happen and we hit a tipping point, you will start to see more people moving into the space, more institutions coming into it. But there is still one last sort of layer of infrastructure that needs to be built, and for us that's very much centered around derivatives. There is a very unhealthy obsession in the crypto world with the concept of an ETF or indexes. You might have heard about this, the market being moved by rumors of Van Eck in the US launching a crypto ETF. Very simple premise, you're locking up more and more crypto in an ETF, and therefore, as supply goes down, prices should go up, and markets should stabilize. When simply, this is not the case. This is not how traditional markets work. A lot of you guys come from that background. An ETF or an index does not go out and buy 100 units of the physical underlying. It'll typically hedge, or it'll buy futures, options, some derivative product. If those markets don't even exist in crypto yet, how can institutions come into the space? The only way that institutions find alpha and returns is through leverage. There's no yield, there's no leverage. If you buy Bitcoin, you buy Ether now, it has no yield. It is purely speculative. So in order for us to have a forward curve, a rates market, all the basic fundamental tenets of a capital market infrastructure, there's a lot of work to be done. And so like I said, we're still at that printing money at home and horse and buggy stage, and I think there's a lot of work to be done. Thank you very much.
QCP 캐피털의 조시아 호님이었습니다. 다음으로 크리스티나 야수다님이십니다. 크리스티나 야수다님은 IBO 연구소에서 디지털 신원 담당자로 난 및 그 외 선거권이 없는 계층의 신원 정보를 재구축하는 디지털 신원 정보 프로젝트를 주도하고 있습니다. 5분 이내로 리뷰 말씀 부탁드립니다.
Hi, so I'm coming from a quite niche area in this blockchain market, being a legal tech NGO that has been trying to enhance the power of blockchain. And what we're trying to do is also reestablishing, reissuing digital identity for the marginalized populations in Southeast Asia. So I'm trying to bring two perspectives here to the conversation we've been having. So one is that of digital identity, and second of the promise for blockchain, not just mature developed markets, but also developing markets. So speaking about digital identity, I believe it's a great application of blockchain, but at the same time, we would need an established infrastructure of digital identity if we really want to scale the blockchain in the future. So what is digital identity, right? I don't know if you're familiar with that cartoon posted in New York Post when internet was just starting to penetrate, a cartoon showing two dogs in front of a computer and sending a mail to each other saying, do you think a person on the other side of the internet will be able to guess if I'm a dog or not? Well, have we really moved forward after that during the past 20 years? Well, not really, right? We still don't have that system where we can do the same identification interaction we're having offline, online, and we think we're almost there to build a system that can realize that, which I will be talking about. And second, about using blockchain for developing community. When blockchain just emerged, there was this huge excitement among humanitarian organizations, aid organizations in Africa, Southeast Asia, that we might have a tool for microfinance, we might have a tool, to facilitate remittances, we might have a tool that will empower all those people who've been looking for the solutions. And that has sort of been, maybe in a shade under all this cryptocurrency vibe, but that's what we have been continuing to work on. So one of the use cases that we are working on is, so we're trying to bring a successful system that we have tested in the UK to Bangladesh. And what we did in the UK is, so we're trying to create a self-sovereign identity in the healthcare space. What we did is, the problem was young doctors in the UK, they have to rotate hospitals several times. So they work in one hospital for 3 months, and then they move on to another. And guess what? UK spends £2.6 billion per year on this administrative work regarding all this agents' movements. And the calculation shows that 25,000 doctor days are used on identification and pre-checks and enrollment, because every year there are scandals saying that doctors were using a fake ID or So what we did was we created a sort of an identity wallet system where all the credentials, all your medical records, all the credentials are stored on your hardware device or in the cloud, so nothing is stored on blockchain. But on blockchain, we keep a proof that that credential is correct. It's verified and authenticated. So once a hospital or a certain trusted entity issues that credential, it's recorded on blockchain that it's verifiable, it's verified. So when a doctor goes to one hospital, the only things they do is they share, we generate public-private keys, they share public key, and the entities it's trying to use the credential, they get access and they can check on blockchains that it's a correct credential. And it's what used to be, weeks of going through paperwork, now it's just one click and you can make sure that it's verified. And that's where, we think we're enhancing the power of blockchain, that it's an immutable ledger that, can be kept in a decentralized way. And in the future, of course, so we're working with a proprietary blockchain called Sovereign Foundation. It's really focusing on partnerships. So, at the beginning you heard that Hyperledger is proprietary, people are walking away from it. Our project is actually part of Hyperledger Indy, and it's a public permission blockchain where we have IBM, Cisco, T-Mobile, all the big players, but also small NGOs like ours, playing in the same field, figuring out how can we ensure this interoperability between this blockchain applications. So ideally, our digital identity solution will be used not just in one ecosystem, but will be interoperable among different ecosystems. And going to the tokens, how does tokens play around this, right? So there are two aspects. One aspect would be the tokens would enable this exchange of credentials, sort of turning it into credential economy, because, companies are saying increasingly, data is valuable, right? We should be using data. Well, guess what? Consumers are not stupid as well. They're realizing that their data is having some sort of value. And if we can't have this, trusted relationships, people will just stop sharing the data, and vice versa. Once they trust you, they will share more and more data with you. So how can we, tokenize that exchange, facilitating that process, trusted process? That's going to be one thing. And another thing regarding tokens is once we have this identity system running, the thing is identity in itself doesn't have really value, right? Like me saying I'm Christina doesn't really make any value as long as, it's used in the transactions with someone, with interaction with someone. And that's where we think, there should be some system of tokenization. We're still, in the process of writing a white paper about it. But essentially, when we were talking about financial inclusion, so I'm flying to Bangladesh next week to issue this digital identity to the medical students and to students in the refugee camps. And for them, once they get these credentials, they will need some sort of token system to be able to exchange and use and get services and goods in return. I think those two aspects is how this ties into this, bigger picture that we've been talking about, token economy. So I think, digital identity will be crucial because blockchain enables peer-to-peer relationships, right? And now we have this third party that is able to verify and certify and tell, that's a good transaction, and that's where all the cost was concentrated before. And what blockchain is saying, we're taking out this third party and we're being able to do it peer-to-peer. But then how do you establish this trust between two parties? What if you took away that intermediary who used to play that role? And that's where we are proposing this, new, it's not exactly new, but this ecosystem of digital identity to empower, to scale blockchain more, but also fix this currently broken online digital identity system. Thank you.
IBO 연구소의 크리스티나 야수다님 말씀 들었습니다. 네, 5분의 리뷰 말씀 잘 들었습니다. 시간 관계상 한 분만 청중분들로부터 질문 받도록 하겠습니다. 질문 있으신 분들은 손 들어주시면 감사하겠습니다. 네, 질문 없으시면 이것으로 5분의 리뷰 마치도록 하겠습니다. 네, 감사합니다. 이어서 키플랫폼 2019에서 준비한 5분의 스피커분의 15분간씩 발표가 진행되겠습니다. 첫 발표로 오리진 프로토콜의 마이카 알콘 제품 매니저님께서 탈중앙화 시장의 미래에 대해서 발표하시겠습니다. 앞으로 올라와 주시기 바랍니다. 오리진 프로토콜에서는 블록체인 기반으로 탈중앙화된 마켓플레이스를 만들고 있습니다. 미카 알콘 매니저님께서는 풀스택 엔지니어로서 사용자 지향, 어플리케이션, 제품 관리를 담당하고 계시고 매표 관리 소프트웨어 플랫폼인 기술 분야 자력 경영 신생기업 웰 어텐디드를 공동 창업하셨습니다. 네, 말씀 부탁드립니다.
Good morning. My name is Micah. I am the product manager at Origin Protocol, and I am so excited to be here in Korea. This is actually my first time visiting anywhere in Asia, so I want to say thank you so much to Money Today and the K.E.Y platform for having me here. At Origin, we're making it incredibly simple for anyone to build a decentralized marketplace on the blockchain. We believe that by doing this, we can make it possible for buyers and sellers to save billions of dollars of value and also control their own destinies. I'm going to talk today about the future of decentralized marketplaces, but first, we should reflect briefly on the current landscape of centralized marketplace applications. So approximately 20 or 25 years ago, Craigslist and eBay, they changed the way many people buy and sell goods and services by moving classified ads and auctions onto the internet. And then 10 or 15 years after that, companies like Uber and Airbnb, they changed the way, they introduced the sharing economy, and they introduced what we call the fractional usage of assets. Many people refer to these companies as peer-to-peer marketplaces. But it turns out they don't actually enable true peer-to-peer commerce. For example, if I am a traveler and I want to discover and book a vacation home directly with the homeowner, I'm not able to do that. And if I'm a driver and I want to connect directly with people who need transportation, I can't do that without being at the mercy of an increasingly monopolistic central authority, one that collects and silos my data and has complete unilateral control over whether or not I can participate in the network. Origin has a different vision for the future. It's one where buyers and sellers can meet and transact without any intermediaries. And that's possible today thanks to the power of the blockchain. We've made it our mission to enable true peer-to-peer commerce. And we want to do this for buyers and sellers all around the world. But why is this important, and why have so many members of our global community rallied behind this mission? It starts with our philosophy, and it's guided by 4 reasons why you should all care about the future of decentralized marketplaces. And these can be categorized as either financial incentives or initiatives to increase access to goods and services. First, we have the power to reduce or eliminate fees. Many of these centralized marketplaces, they charge commissions of upwards of 20 or 30% or even higher in extreme cases. But on Origin, there are no transaction fees. And that puts money back into the hands of buyers and sellers. We also want to redistribute value from those centralized intermediaries to users of the platform. Think about Uber, for example. They recently announced their IPO. They're going to be valued somewhere near $100 billion. But if you think about when the company first started, they depended on a very small number of drivers to bootstrap the supply side of their network. And if you talk to many of those early adopters today, guess what they're doing? They're actually still driving for Uber, and they're making less money today than they were 10 years ago. they're certainly not going to see some windfall reward after Uber's massive liquidity event. But with the advent of what we call crypto economic incentives, we can actually reward usage of the platform. We can provide financial incentives, not only for buyers and sellers, but also for partners who build marketplaces on Origin's platform. We also want to promote open commerce. Many of those centralized marketplaces, they're heavily regulated or restricted in many cities and countries around the world. In fact, in San Francisco, where Origin is based, Airbnb was recently forced to remove approximately half of its entire listing inventory simply because a new law went into effect. And we've all heard these terrible stories about, say, a driver whose entire livelihood depends on Uber being able to drive for them. And then after receiving one bad review, he is kicked off the platform with no recourse. And then Airbnb has been known to remove accounts with no fair warning or any explanation whatsoever. But here's the important thing to remember. Even well-meaning intermediaries, even good actors, good companies, they can be central points of failure. And that's particularly true if they are mismanaged or at the mercy of overzealous governments that regulate them. And then finally, and perhaps the most important reason to care about the future of decentralized marketplaces, is we have an opportunity to serve the unbanked. There are nearly 2 billion people in the world who are unable to participate in any of those marketplaces. And it's simply because they don't have a bank account. But what they do have is a smartphone and access to cryptocurrency. With the Origin platform, we could see hundreds or thousands of vertical specific marketplaces spring up in developing markets around the world. And I'll also say that at Origin, we are incredibly excited about what Samsung is doing right here in Korea with their Galaxy S10, shipping a smartphone with an Ethereum wallet built right in. This is going to make it so much easier for buyers and sellers on Origin to transact directly with no intermediary. So what exactly is it that we're building that's going to enable true peer-to-peer commerce? Well, it starts with open source protocols. This is a suite of smart contracts and standards for the creation of listings and offers and identity. It's totally impractical for every marketplace developer to reinvent the wheel, to write their own smart contracts. This requires not only learning a new programming language, but also having those smart contracts audited, which is cost prohibitive for the vast majority of marketplace operators. And it's otherwise incredibly dangerous for users if it's not done properly. But we also recognize that building any kind of decentralized application for the blockchain, it's dramatically different for a developer than building a traditional web application or mobile application that can rely on a centralized server and a database. So we've added a second layer of developer tools in the form of easy-to-use JavaScript libraries and a no-code required marketplace creator tool that allows anyone to build a decentralized marketplace on the blockchain in literally minutes. You could do it while I'm standing here today instead of the months or weeks or longer that it can often take. And then at the top of the stack, we're proving the versatility of our own platform by building several user-facing dApps or decentralized applications of our own. And we expect these to soon be just as familiar and easy to use as those centralized applications that we're all accustomed to. And there's one more thing that I want to say about our technology stack, and it's particularly special to me at Origin, which is that all of this code is open source. But it's not just the code that's open. Our entire product development process, our engineering meetings, our sprint planning, all of this is open to the public. We call it public by default. And it means that anyone can participate in what we're doing, and we've benefited from contributions from many members of our global community. We've launched 3 dApps on the Ethereum mainnet, in addition to those that have been created by our partners and by members of our global community using the Marketplace Creator. We started with a generalized dApp, which aggregates all of the listings that are created anywhere across the Origin network. Then we launched Peer Art, which is a decentralized art marketplace that allows artists to sell their works without paying 50% commissions to art galleries. And then most recently, we launched Crypto Merch, which features merchandise from many of your favorite blockchain projects. And of course, there's never a fee paid to Origin when you buy or sell anything on any one of these dApps. We've learned so much in the process of building these, especially how frustrating the user experience can be. And so our focus right now is to remove as much of that friction as possible so that we can incorporate those learnings into our open source code and make it that much easier for our partners to be successful. I actually have a special exclusive announcement that I've been saving for Key Platform 2019. And that is that we're excited to announce the release of our first mobile marketplace application with a fully integrated Ethereum wallet built right in. With Origin Marketplace, you can do everything from creating listings and offers, managing your identity, and even connecting and messaging other users on the Origin network. This is in the Google Play Store and the App Store. So I would invite everyone to download it and buy or sell something and make your first true peer-to-peer transaction on the blockchain. The mobile app is just one of many initiatives that we're undertaking right now to improve this user experience. It's probably no surprise that wallet management is still a significant issue, and solving this one requires kind of a delicate balance of security and usability. We're exploring ways to make it more convenient for users to manage and recover these accounts, but the most important thing is that they not lose their sovereignty. Funding and paying gas on the Ethereum network is an absolutely foreign concept to most users, but it's even an onboarding hurdle for blockchain enthusiasts. You can't create a listing or make an offer or manage your identity without first having Ether in your wallet in order to cover the necessary gas costs to post to the blockchain. So we're actively right now working on what we call meta transactions. It's a proxy contract that allows any of our users to get started without having to first be concerned about having Ether in their wallet. Processing times on the Ethereum mainnet are often as high as 2 or 3 minutes right now. We trust that the Ethereum core team and other amazing projects like Seller Network that you'll hear from later, they're working aggressively to solve this issue. We're focused right now on finding the most compelling use cases for decentralized marketplaces, finding adoption and usage from people who are so motivated to buy and sell that they're willing to go through all of this friction in these early days. And then one last challenge that's a little bit specific to marketplaces is currency volatility. If you're selling something and your price is denominated in ETH or in Bitcoin, you don't actually know what the value of that currency is going to be by the time your transaction settles. So we recently actually completed our first stablecoin integration with MakerDAI. And we also shifted from our listings being priced in ETH to having them priced in fiat currencies that are more familiar to users. And what this means is that from the time that you create a listing and you want to sell something, all the way until when your escrow contract closes and you receive your funds. You don't have to be concerned about currency volatility that entire time. I mentioned earlier that one of the reasons that we should care about enabling true peer-to-peer commerce is the opportunity to redistribute value from those centralized intermediaries to users of the platform. And we just started doing this by launching what we call Origin Rewards, which is a program that allows anyone to earn our ERC20 tokens simply by using one of our dApps. And so I'd invite everyone to visit ogn.dev/rewards and sign up to be a part of the future of decentralized marketplaces. You can have a stake in the future value and success of our network. You can do that by simply verifying an identity, buying and selling something, and referring your friends so they can earn Origin tokens themselves. And we're distributing these tokens in monthly cycles, so we would encourage you to come back on a regular basis and continue to earn more. And then finally, this program is not yet available in all countries, but it is available to our friends here in South Korea. We have over 800 investors around the world who have decided to support us in this mission to enable true peer-to-peer commerce. And that includes Hashed right here in South Korea. We hosted last year our first Korean meetup at the Hashed Lounge, so we are very grateful for their support. And Korea is obviously very important to Origin, and so we recently hired our first full-time regional manager, Mila. She would love for you to join our Korean Telegram group and say hi to Mila today while you're here. Finally, I just want to say thank you so much to all of you, to Money Today and the K.E.Y platform for having me here to share Origin's vision for the future of decentralized marketplaces. Please download our app and join us in our mission to enable true peer-to-peer commerce.
Thank you for your speech, Micah. 오리진 프로토콜의 미카 알콘 매니저님께서 탈중앙화된 마켓플레이스의 미래에 대해서 말씀해 주셨습니다. And I have one question. You mentioned Uber, eBay, and Airbnb, big companies. Can you share some kind of critical ideas that can beat and compete with those big companies?
Yes, thank you. I'll be the first to say that I was an early adopter of Uber and Airbnb. I still use them both today. I actually stayed in an Airbnb my first few days in Korea this week. And back in 2011, I think I first stayed in an Airbnb. Everybody said it's totally crazy to go stay on someone's couch. When you first start taking Uber, the concept was foreign to get in a car with a stranger. But those companies, they did a few things. They provided value. They're arguably cheaper in many cases than the alternative. They provide better service. And what they really did fundamentally was give consumers more choice. That's what we want to do. We want to give consumers the opportunity to save money, to earn being a part of the network, and to use these services, similar services, in countries where they otherwise can't. And then, as I reflect on that now, I realize how privileged I was to be able to use those services long ago. And as I mentioned, there are nearly 2 billion people who are unable to do that, and we want to empower them to control their own destinies.
Thank you for your answers. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
저도 호기심에 오리진 프로토콜 서비스를 체험해봤고 탈중앙화된 이베이가 연상되더군요. 글로벌 셀러들의 참여를 통해서 탈중앙화된 글로벌 마켓플레이스 생태계가 만들어지길 바라면서 큰 기대를 해보겠습니다. 이어서 아르마다 체인의 제키 장과 켄트 마키시마 공동 창업자분께서 금융 블록체인 비전에 대해서 발표해 주시겠습니다. 두 분은 ZS 블록체인과 기업 컨설팅 자문업체인 ZS 캐피털의 운영 파트너로 계십니다. 감사합니다.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Kent Makashima. This is my co-founder, Jackie Zhang, and we are the managing partners for an enterprise consulting firm called ZS Blockchain. Today's presentation will be talking about the future vision of financial blockchain. So to give a little bit of background on ZS Blockchain, we are an enterprise blockchain consulting firm working with large companies in Asia, the United States, as well as Latin America. We provide executive education, architecture in different blockchains. We are agnostic to any type of distributed ledger architecture, working with Nulls, Tezos, Ethereum, EOS, as well as Hedera Hashgraph. For today's presentation, Jackie will first start off with the ecosystem of today's blockchain, and I'll follow up with financial applications and then the future vision of where we see moving forward.
So let's start with what we believe in ZS Blockchain as the 4 core benefits for financial blockchain. So one of the first things about blockchain is it has a single source of truth. According to KBCP's research, over 40% of efficiency will be caused by the single source of truth. The second is the reduce of loss and fraud. Because of blockchain being immutable ledgers, you have audit trail, which you could track and trace different losses and frauds throughout a single transaction. Also, because of blockchain being a transparency, you're allowed for over 25% of customer satisfaction. And because of settlements, truth, and finance being over different flows, you're allowed a bigger flow of capital. So let's look at the state of blockchain ecosystem currently right now. So here are some examples of some public chains that are big in the ecosystem right now. We have Ripple, which has their product of S-Rapid, which allows for cross-border transactions of over 300 to 1,000 banks on board right now. Then you have the biggest ICO funding, which is EOS, over 1 billion funding in their ICO phase, over 300 DApps as well. Ethereum created Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, which has over hundreds of members from banks to Fortune 500 corporations. And you have Tron, which acquired BitTorrent, one of the old consumer-facing products from blockchain. But the biggest thing about blockchain is permission-based. So right now you have things like Hyperledger, Corda, and Quorum. So Hyperledger is used by likes of like IBM, which created the big product of WeTrade as well wires. And then you have Corda, which is created by R3, which have over a huge consortium of banking systems, as well as different associations that created different products. And JPM recently, with their product Quorum, which allows for settlements and trade finance. But Ken will go a little bit deeper in the aspect of what are the applications in blockchain, and also what we think about the perspective. Ken?
Yeah, so to look at the different applications of blockchain, there are several use cases where the distributed ledger is useful. First, we can look at like commodities blockchain, trading of different commodities on a decentralized marketplace. Right now, there's an organization called Congo SA, which is put together by different financial institutions, and they actually do trade commodities on their settlement layers. Next is loans. Using loans on the distributed ledger allow for not just faster settlements, but also the tracking of the different instruments that are involved. And recently, the BBVA had the first $170 million syndicated loan to Porsche AG. Next is trade finance. So for trade finance, distributed ledger provides transparency to all transactions provided by all parties in multiple tiers of the supply chain. This allows third parties to come in, handle settlements in not just a faster manner, but also a more confident manner regarding trade finance. IBM has their WorldWire, which is the active platform right now that handles the system. Next is proxy voting systems. We hear a lot in the distributed ledger about using blockchain to provide more accurate voting, to make sure all voting counts are accounted for. And recently, Santander Bank had their first shareholder meeting held via a blockchain for proxy voting systems. Insurance. Not just for faster settlement, but also tracking different transactions on the distributed ledger. Everledger is one company that does handle transparency within insurance contracts. However, there are a bunch of different companies out there, such as GenesisNet, building on the Hedera hash graph, which provides smart contracts for insurance companies to build easy-to-use consumer interfaces in flight delay insurance or, or product insurance. Next is settlements and custody. Recently, the Swiss Stock Exchange decided to work with R3 to provide full settlements and custody layer for themselves, and that is currently active in the European markets. For payments and micropayments. So micropayments is recently a new concept to come with cryptocurrencies. Current payment processors require either a percentage minimum or a minimum payment, and it's not really ideal for payments that are for streaming services, which require less than a couple cents or even a microcent. Current financial systems don't necessarily support this, and the introduction of using cryptocurrencies on platforms like Hedera Hashgraph make payments of just fractions of a penny completely possible directly to consumers. So this opens up new opportunities in like paying for streaming services, as well as very micro transactions. And last is identity verification. We hear a lot in the blockchain space about using identity for health records, certifications, for your jobs, your resumes, your credentials. However, recently, or not quite recently, but within the last year, Samsung has released BankSign, which does provide verification for people interacting with different Korean banks here in the Korean community. However, to move forward with blockchain and pushing the industry forward, there are different roadblocks that we consider that are preventing progress. And the first is the Oracle problem. For people that aren't completely familiar with oracles, it is kind of like the bridge that connects the real world to the distributed ledger or the blockchain. For example, it could be someone typing on their computer and putting information to the blockchain. It could be an IoT device that when something is scanned, sends the data from that barcode and uploads it to the distributed ledger. Or it could be an API call that takes information from the NASDAQ Stock Exchange and constantly streams and updates it on the blockchain. These are all examples of oracles. However, the main problem with this is that it is just a mechanism to upload data. There is no protectionist systems to handle misinformation. There's a saying that when garbage goes into something, garbage comes out. And that is the exact same thing with the blockchain. If there's misinformation being put into the blockchain, you are not going to be able to use it as the central truth of data that everybody preaches blockchain can handle. So until for oracles, until we solve this problem, it is going to hamper the use cases that we have for blockchain until we can figure out how to economically handle, using game theory or any other aspect, uploading misinformation. Next is proper use cases. For blockchain itself, we believe that it does take a paradigm shift in thinking for decentralization to understand the true use case of blockchain. It's merely a technology, a piece of infrastructure that can't be just put onto something and therefore it's a great decentralized use case. You really have to think about it from the ground up to take full advantages of the blockchain. As the technology is in its very nascent stage, I mean, recently we haven't seen enterprise use cases starting around 2014, 2015. It is constantly evolving. The technology that we saw 5 months ago can be extremely different in the next week or the next couple months, which means that we have to be constantly adapting to this new tech, not just in development, but also in regulations. And because of that, until it matures and we start seeing more solidified projects in the space, we're going to have to keep dynamically changing our thoughts. As well, we move from like blockchain to DAGs and other types of distributed ledger architecture. And lastly, which I'll go more over in the next slide, is ecosystem confinement. If we all know about when the internet first came around, we had a lot of what we called like smaller intranets and smaller like systems that people had for their communities, but didn't necessarily, until they came together, create the internet. And without that interoperability between systems, we won't have the full benefits of the blockchain that we imagine it to be amongst all parties. So for the need of ecosystem collaboration, first is about standards and regulation. So the European Union, in fact, has a sub-entity called the European Commission. And the European Commission decides like they do a think tank for different regulations, standards for the distributed ledger space in Europe. These kind of regulations helps encourage more people to think about the same infrastructure, to get on the same platform, to think about the standardizations that are needed, which is extremely important for the financial and fintech space. This includes considerations about KYC, AML. When you have P2P systems, who entirely decides who does the KYC? Even if you have one party that does it, it does limit who can send and who can receive money on these platforms. So without a full ecosystem, it's not going to be as open as you would ideally want it when you create it. This helps encourage users, but most importantly, trust amongst people that are joining the platform. As you heard in the presentations earlier, people are moving away from like Hyperledger. No one wants to have all your data on someone else's infrastructure that they control. You want to be able to have it open and like truly decentralized, as we all believe when we first adopt blockchain. In terms of like ecosystems that are coming around that are trying to replace such like the SWIFT network, you have a Ripple system, you have R3 Corda, you have JPM's Interbank Information Network, which actually is a conglomerate of 200 different banks with 75 top banks in the world, all working together on how to handle settlements and cross-border payments faster. But let's look at the future. So what's the next steps on what we consider is going to be pushing the industry forward? And the first one is like increasing the amount of oracles and solving that oracle problem. I think that is one of the biggest hurdles that we have for blockchain currently. And until we solve that, in the future, we will solve that issue and we'll have more information uploaded to the blockchain in a more secure manner, ultimately creating that central source of trust that we all believe blockchain can provide. Next is POCs moving more into production. Through 2017 and 2018, we saw a lot of proof of concepts trying to identify what are great uses of decentralized technology. Luckily in 2019, we've seen a lot of success, such as banking actually handling settlement layers, different insurances provided. And moving into production, we'll just have to worry about how do we scale these to the masses, which is still a large problem that distributed ledger technology is trying to solve, but at its core should be possible. Next is exploring alternative distributed ledger technologies. So we all are familiar with blockchain, and we use blockchain kind of as the main word to describe distributed ledger technologies. However, there are other architectures available, such as DAG implementations, which have the same distributed ledger paradigms involved, but have different aspects, like faster transactional speeds at the cost of not being able to store data for perpetuity. These open up different doors and opportunities, nor will one architecture be the core one that we use in the future, but each one will open up different opportunities while we explore different applications. And the last is collaborative ecosystems. As I mentioned on the slide before, it's extremely important for people to work together to develop these standards and to develop the regulations that are going to govern blockchain in the future. Not just in like regulations, not just in like identity and like civic use cases, but also in supply chain and other industries. It is important for us that when we think about these decentralized systems, that the new standards for data and the privacy that are involved moving forward. So with that, I would like to thank you for listening to your presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions afterwards. Thank you.
제키장, 캣 마키시마, 아르바다 체인, ZS 블록체인 공동 창업자분들의 금융 블록체인 발표를 들으셨습니다. I have one question for you. As a blockchain consulting agency, what kind of partners are you looking for in South Korea?
I think in South Korea, there's an interesting aspect like within like the finance and the banking industry. I think Korean community is interesting in general because a lot of the population does understand blockchain. So we do see a lot of use cases in the B2C sense. Like Kakao, Line are all exploring different things, as well as like Samsung. So regarding partners, I think we're looking more like the enterprise use cases and how to push that side of the industry forward.
Yeah, something I noticed about the Korean industry is a lot of Korean banks and stuff have a big issue of trust, and regulations have been a little bit more open, but not completely open. So we work with a lot of government agencies and also the government in California. So maybe bring some of the use cases of how they push regulations into the Korean government as well.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. 네. 이어서 AI와 블록체인의 만남이라는 주제로 코카 에런 리 창업자이자 대표님께서 발표해 주시겠습니다. 코카는 AI 기술을 바탕으로 오피니언 엔진을 개발해 대표적으로 이커머스 API인 수도 리뷰, 크립토 코카 API를 제공하는 회사입니다. 에런니님께서는 코카의 대표이자 엔지니어로서 스케일드 인퍼런스 담당, AI를 주도하고 계시고 다양한 글로벌 기업의 머신러닝 및 언어 처리 기술 관련 연구소 재직 경험을 갖고 계십니다.
Okay, hello. Good morning, everyone. Really happy to be here. This is my first time in Korea. Very excited to talk about AI and blockchain. Perhaps two words that venture capitalists really want to hear in Silicon Valley. And apologies to be the only person wearing t-shirts. I didn't know. And my company is in Silicon Valley, and I'm the founder and CEO of Coca. Let's go to the next slide. This is not working. Oops, it's working. It's great. Right. So before I started this company, I was a AI engineer and research since 2010, but I was also a Bitcoin miner since 2011. And AI and blockchain, they are actually have been around for 30 years, more than most people are aware of their existence, but they're really gaining traction only for the last 10 years. There are some basic adoptions, there's some invention on GPU, then there's some general purpose platforms launched, and then there's a bunch of AI startups, cryptocurrencies and tokens, thousands of them. But AI is a little bit ahead of blockchain because right now there are a lot of real-world adoption, but for blockchain there is not as much. And probably because blockchain is something that's bottom up. So it starts from people, it starts from developers, enthusiasts. We start to think about applications that we can build on top of it. But for AI, what you can see is it's mostly institutions and governments who are benefiting from applications in AI, at least for now. And the entry barrier for blockchain is really open. Like everybody can learn smart contract probably in 2 to 3 months. But for AI, you really have to maybe get a 4-year education in math or do some training in programming to really get started. So today I'm going to talk about 3 big things. So how AI and blockchain can work together and benefit each other. And second thing is where we are going with all this. And third thing is what are the applications. And so the first I want to talk about the blockchain projects for AI, and there are actually a lot of them. The reason that we want to do this is if we have AI on blockchain, we're going to have more transparency, so people can trust each other and collaborate better. Companies can pool their resources, the data, all together and provide much better services. For example, all this insurance company can put together their credit score data and make better estimation models, therefore maybe lower the premium that we pay for insurance, or they just make more money. But there are 4 major challenges for doing this. One is privacy. We don't want blockchain, as everybody knows, distributed open ledger, but we don't want our personal data to be exposed on that. And second is speed. As many people have noticed, Ethereum is really slow, even though it's blockchain with the largest adoption. And third thing is scale, and fourth thing is generality. We don't want to implement new blockchain for every single application, AI application that we don't build on blockchain. And there are actually quite a few companies working on this. The two interesting ones that I did a lot of study on was like K.E.Y is based in Silicon Valley, and Cortex. I just actually met the founder a week ago in Beijing. And for K.E.Y, they used some trusted hardware, and they offload all the computation to off the blockchain, and with trusted hardware, they achieved amazing result. As I've shown here, they are much faster, and they are able to preserve the privacy and for any part of the data you want, whether it's the model or the personal data itself. And these are applications in finance, in IoT, and for gaming. Even though the project is quite early stage, it's already very promising. And of course, there are a bunch of other projects for running AI on blockchain or somehow benefiting, contributing to the ecosystem. And there are projects that let you share models and trade models, trade data, and also allow everybody to monetize based on their own data. For example, I remember one of them is called Datum. So the idea is you can download an app, you can enable certain data of yours, like your email address, your location, to be shared around the network and to be shared with application developers based on this blockchain. And every time somebody makes use of your data, maybe they do some AI training, for example, they're going to pay you. And that's not possible until blockchain came around. As one of the speakers said previously, companies like Facebook and Uber and all that, they made money based on our data, but we are not gaining benefit from that. And of course, there are a bunch of applications for this. One of the successful examples I really like is Steam. They used to have nearly 1 million active users on their blockchain platform. And the idea is when you post something on their blockchain, you are going to be rewarded for contributing good content. And this, when applied to AI, is we are able to get high quality data just based on the adoption of this blockchain. So that's AI on blockchain, and vice versa. There's another perspective, which is AI projects designed to improve the blockchain ecosystem. And I call it AI projects for blockchain. And surprisingly, there aren't many of that projects in this direction, probably because blockchain hasn't been adopted by the mass as of this moment. But there are lots of opportunities. For example, information summarization, prediction, and evaluation and fraud detection. Even though blockchain is a really good tool to reduce fraud, there are still like people laundering money or trying to make fraudulent transactions or trying to scam people by launching bad ICOs. And there are also an opportunity which we can optimize the blockchain infrastructure, much like what Google did in 2017, and they did a presentation in NIPS. They got amazing results. For example, they improved search efficiency by 3 times. Today I want to talk a little bit more about information summarization and prediction, which is an area that my company launched a product for, which is called Crypto Coca, because there are already thousands of coins and tokens. And last time I looked, CoinMarketCap, which is a crypto market information website, is already the #2 in terms of traffic. worldwide in the area of finance. Just the only website that has more traffic than market cap is Yahoo Finance. And there's a real information need for what's going on in crypto, in blockchain. And that's why my company built this platform called CryptoCoca, which is summarizing and predicting trends and sentiments for cryptocurrencies and in the future dApps and a bunch of blockchain projects. And it's powered by some of our core technology, which we call it corporate engine. So what we did was we have large-scale distributed crawler. We can crawl all the discussion data on the internet. And for example, just to give you some idea of the scale of this crawler, we crawled hundreds of millions of Amazon reviews just in less than a week. And we are able to use really high efficiency machine learning to learn what's going on with this data, what people are talking about, what the topics, the phrases, the sentences, the paragraphs, the most representative paragraphs to summarize all the contents and divide it into topics. For product reviews, we can tell you the good and bad for each product, what people like, what people don't like. And we have a bunch of APIs for understanding, predicting, summarizing, organizing, and searching, and visualizing all this information. And I want to share some interesting results in 4 areas that we found related to crypto. So one is sentiment and price. So over the last years, the market really turned from really bullish to really bad. And a lot of people say that crypto is, people can't find the reason behind the price of cryptocurrency. Sometimes it just seems random. And what we found is it's true that crypto is largely driven by sentiment, the price of it at least. What happened last year, I remember in November, this is one day Ethereum dropped by 20%. But before that happened, we saw negative sentiment spike, increased by 100%, positive sentiment dropped by 75%. And we saw a lot more signals like this, just one example. This is showing you more results like this. Apparently, there are some correlation for the price on the left and sentiment on the right for each one of them. And there are just more examples for Bitcoin. I took the screenshots in February. And here is, so with sentiment, we did another analysis on the market overview, just to give you an idea of how people perceive cryptocurrencies these days. And overall, it's slightly negative because it's red. But interestingly, there are some smaller projects that are really gaining traction, and they are green. People really have high hope for it. And interestingly, Ethereum is perceived as more positive than Bitcoin. Also, another project called Doge is also perceived more positively. But as I'm going to show you later, that Dogecoin is more of a meme on the internet. Utility-wise, not that useful. But we can see it from our platform. I'm going to show you later. This is how every project compared with Bitcoin, just relatively. And another interesting result we got from our platform is this. By the way, all these are live on the website. You can access all that and see the live data at any time. So for any cryptocurrency, any crypto project, any blockchain project, we can show you the latest events that's newsworthy and how people react to it. Red means negative, green means positive. And not it's not always the case that when something seemingly positive happens, people react positively. For example, here we see Google search for Bitcoin picking up. That's November last year. But people reacted really negatively. And what happened back then was, I remember Bitcoin price dropped from $6,000 down to $3,000 in just less than a month. And people are just unhappy, angry, I don't know. But this is what they are talking about. They say, like, I guess people are just searching Bitcoin dead rather than, Bitcoin search for Google search for Bitcoin picking up. It doesn't really mean the market is getting better. And another event that happened last year was somebody claimed Switzerland is going to launch the first crypto ETF. And it turns out it's fake news. It's not really an ETF. And again, there are some negative reactions that we saw from the results. Here is another feature that we have. We analyzed the trending topics for each of the cryptos. For Ethereum, you can see it's very sort of technical. It's more about smart contract system, the chance of idea applications. But for Dogecoin, which is on the top right, the trending topics are Shibi, which is the dog, the doggy itself, and currency asset. So it is more of a people are not thinking of applications you can build with Doggy, apparently. But for Ethereum, it's a lot more practical and innovative. And here's a visualization of people's discussion and their sentiment. We call it a knowledge graph. Even when it was bear market, I remember Ethereum was below $150 back then. It is a worst time, I believe, over the last year. Even though at that stage that people are still very active in terms of like discussing Ethereum applications. The focus of the community is still on the technical side and what they can do in the future. And we can drill down into particular topics and see the most representative posts, discussions, and how people comment on it. So it really saves a lot of time when we want to analyze what's going on with the cryptocurrencies. Of course, there are a lot other applications with the core engine that we built. For example, we recently partnered with some AI firm in patent, in immigration, also in finance, in trend prediction. And we have another platform called Pseudo Review, which I talked about. We crowd a lot of data and try to find out what's going on with each Amazon product, how people perceive these products. And we are really looking forward to build more applications and partner with more companies if anybody has more use cases in mind. And thank you.
코카 에런리 대표님께서 AI와 블록체인의 만남 발표를 들었습니다. 이어서 모동 셀러 네트워크 공동 창업자님의 블록체인의 확장성의 모색, 온체인과 오프체인의 결합 발표를 듣도록 하겠습니다. 모동 셀러 네트워크 공동 창업자님께서는 블록체인 시스템의 확장성 문제를 해결하기 위해 자신의 연구 경험을 네트워킹 프로토콜로 개발, 분산 시스템, 포맷 확인, 게임 이론에 적용하고 있고 다수의 저명한 학술회의에서 발표 및 인터넷 혁신 어플리케이션상을 수상하신 경험이 있으며 주요 인터넷 콘텐츠 서비스 제공업체들이 그의 연구 실적을 활용한 경력이 있습니다. 셀러 네트워크는 가장 발전된 레이어 2 스케일링 플랫폼을 제공하며 안정적인 오프체인 거래가 가능하도록 만드는 플랫폼 회사입니다. 발표 부탁드립니다.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the intro. It's my great honor to be here, and it's also my first time in Korea. And I'm Mo, CEO of Seller. Today I'm going to talk more about technology behind blockchain and what are people doing in the frontier of blockchain technology. So my specific topic here is off-chain scaling. You may not know about what is off-chain scaling, but what I'm going to talk about in terms of technology is that we have seen a lot of great use cases being presented in the previous discussions and also presentations, things like decentralized marketplaces, things like decentralized exchanges, financial derivatives, and many more things. But are we ready underlaying as a technology? It is not. And today I'm going to talk about how we are going to actually bring internet scale adoptions to every blockchain ecosystem. So, but before we jump into the deep dive of the technology, let me just first have a very quick review of what is economic activity from one perspective. From one perspective, economic activity is really a transform of information and transfer of value and the conversion between information and value. Now, if we look back 100 years for a century, what happened on the information side is that we changed from delivering information using pigeon delivery network to internet, right? So this is how much we have changed in terms of information transfer. But what changed in terms of value transfer? Let's compare that with value transfer side. This is U.S. Oregon Bank, about 100 years ago. And the same exact bank is sitting at the same exact place after 100 years. And if you really think about it, we are doing financial transactions relatively similar comparing to what we are doing 100 years ago. We're lagging behind in terms of the financial transactions and also the value transfer side of economic activity because we have this kind of a trust barrier between nation state and financial silos. So blockchain is really this technology that changes this traditional way of doing financial transactions from nation state and the extremely isolated financial institutions by leveraging a decentralized ledger and using something called a consensus mechanism so that a decentralized network operators, either miners or proof of stake stakers, can actually validate the transactions for everyone. So essentially, it creates trust among untrusted parties so that we can share a common and flat value transfer network and build additional logic, not only just the simple value transfer, but also build additional logic on top. Because effectively, you can reach consensus on any kind of state changes. And that is the key concept of a smart contract derived from the blockchain technology. So we talked about all the great applications, but what we're looking at now in terms of blockchain's capability to handle application is this. This looks like a Nokia phone in 1999, and this is all you have in terms of the blockchain's processing power in today's most of today's public blockchain infrastructure. So we definitely need more scalability to be able to support all these exciting application scenarios. Now, but let me take a step back and ask this question: what is the end goal of blockchain scalability? So where we're going actually? Well, we talked about the economic activity being the transfer of value and information and the conversion between them. So theoretically, we would like to have blockchain be able to match the scalability of internet. One previous speaker also talked about this kind of microtransaction and micropayment scenario where you have a streaming of payment as data flows through the network of internet, right? So let's look at some numbers from internet today. Internet is processing about 2 million emails per second, 65,000 Google searches per second, 72K YouTube video get played per second, and 53 terabyte of data is being transferred per second. And while on this side, on blockchain, we're looking at 8 to 10 transactions per second. Now, let's do some back-of-envelope calculation here. If we're talking about one transaction is associated with 1,000 kilobyte of data transfer, it is not to say that we're going to transfer email on blockchain. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if we equal the amount or match the amount of match the level of scalability. Now, we'll be looking at 530 million transactions per second. And transaction per second is just one single aspect of blockchain scalability. There are even more important aspects of blockchain scalability that is even more pressing and more needed for the user adoption and mass adoption of blockchain. So one thing is latency. Now let me just also take a very, very simple example here. Let's say Alice and Bob is playing chess on blockchain. They're using a smart contract to play the chess. Right? So they deploy the smart contract, the chess contract, and they each deposit $5 into that smart contract. The smart contract is fully decentralized. There's no server hosting them, so you can imagine Alice and Bob coming from entirely different countries, cross financial barrier, and that is all awesome. And now Alice makes a move. Okay, you guys must be wondering what I'm waiting for. I'm just waiting for the block to get confirmed by the network. Right? So that is the level of user experience you get from blockchain today. That is unbearable and so much different from what you have in today's internet applications. Like let's say you're buying, you're playing games, buying stuff, and all that stuff is totally different. And after all that process, not only that, but each transaction is costing a huge amount of money. So let's say they play about 100 steps on the chessboard. What's going to end up happening is that in the beginning they're betting $5, but they spend about $27 playing the game itself. Right? So this is the and after that, like they finally finish the game and they become old guys and then one get a payout. So that is where we are lacking in terms of the technology of blockchain and what we need to solve. And of course, we can target this solution at the blockchain layer, which is to improve the consensus process, right? Because blockchain, the underlying engine of consensus can be improved indeed. Now, where are we is still very much early in the curve here, that we still have a lot of work to do. But since blockchain itself is always a decentralized system, there's always an inherent communication delay between the decentralized nodes in the network. And therefore, there is actually an upper bound in the on-chain scalability you can achieve. And it is estimated that to achieve the mass level adoption that we talked about, we are still very, very far from that, even with all power thrown into the on-chain scalability layer. And that is why we actually need to introduce additional layer between the blockchain and the decentralized application called off-chain scaling layer to actually take us towards the mass adoption of blockchain. And that is what we are working on in Stellar Network, that we provide and propose a coherent off-chain scaling architecture for every blockchain system, including Ethereum, including any other EVM-backed blockchain and any other smart contract supported blockchain to process that. Now, without jumping into the technical details, what are we achieving now? In the testnet right now, we are able to achieve about 20,000 times latency reduction on Ethereum and 100 times lower cost comparing to just directly transacting on Ethereum. And that is, I think, a key step towards real mass adoption. And the architecture of Stellar Network consists of two parts. One is the technology architecture. We have a layered technology architecture, so we can accelerate not only just the simple payment based on blockchain, but also smart contract or program logics based on top of blockchain. And aside from that, as Morgan just talked about in the very beginning of the session, crypto economics or incentive design is extremely important in driving a sustainable blockchain ecosystem. We also have the first ever layer 2 crypto economics construct that is designed based on game theoretical research to provide a sustainable ecosystem and sustainable liquidity and security for the network. Due to time limit, I'm not going to jump into very detail of the technology construct today. Now, why should user or developer care about this? We released something called Stellar X, which is a mobile platform that is accessing the testnet of Stellar Network. And just like give a very, very quick view on what you can do on this test application. So this is effectively a wallet, but it is off-chain and a layer 2 scaling wallet. So I just want to add one more thing, that layer 2 does not mean centralized. There's no central entity. It is still a decentralized network. It's just a scaling in a different dimension. So you can see that the payment gets sent instantly without any kind of a block confirmation delay. And what more you can do on top is, I'm not sure when any of you know this game, it's Gomoko game. It's like basically 5 in a row. And you can play with your friend for some like a cryptocurrency token. Currently, it's running on test token, but you can actually play this on top of any kind of stable token of your choice. Now, what happened in the beginning is that you actually send each other a conditional payment through this decentralized layer 2 scaling network instantly without any delay. And then what this conditional payment conditionally depending on is the result of the game. And the game itself is also implemented as a layer 2 smart contract. So you can see that the interactiveness of this application is much better than what I just talked about in the very beginning. So this is what you can get from layer 2 scaling or off-chain scaling. And this is what we believe will actually drive the adoption of the user to blockchain technology. And we have some very encouraging early data backing this. That in the last 3 months, only just this very simple application with one game is gaining about 50 times growth in terms of monthly active users. And what's more important here is that it is truly global, that we have immediately 67 different countries onboarded this application and doing transactions with a lot of other users in the world. So from what we can see on the back end, the application built with Stellar Networks technology is showing user and product market fit data that is very similar to traditional applications, not blockchain applications, right? So we have very high engagement time. We have very high day 7 retention. We process about 4 million monthly off-chain transactions. So these numbers are extremely encouraging and pointing to a very promising direction to use layer 2 scaling technology. And to note that this is just one application on a paper money testnet. And once we launch these kind of application on the actual mainnet of the network, we are going to see a much more usage and much more retention, because now real money and real game is at stake. So we believe that finally with the layer 2 scaling technology, this kind of a smooth interaction, this kind of a transparency feeling, it's just like you're not using blockchain at all. You're just using a normal application, but at the same time, you have access to the global value stream. That will bring extremely high transaction volume by breaking down the financial barriers, by breaking down the very extremely high fee of traditional payment processors, and create a very sustainable path, a monetization path for blockchain developer, which is extremely needed right now, if we want to further grow the ecosystem, right? Because there's no new money coming into the ecosystem, because the developers building on top of the blockchain technologies is struggling to making a sustainable revenue. And we believe that this will actually point towards a very clear direction towards that. Now, I talked about user-facing application a lot, but we are also looking at enterprise market. So recently, we have done a proof of a concept project with one of the major US automobile vendors. And the project is oriented on peer-to-peer electricity market. And the use case here is that people are using electricity cars, and there are also a lot of homes with a solar panel installed on the roof. So there is a project to have these electricity cars get electricity from this solar panel and as a decentralized power grid, and pay the panel owner directly without routing through any kind of intermediary and central power grid. And this points also to the direction of a very important use case, that is micropayment or pay-per-use use cases, that is also going to be enabled by Stellar, that was not possible if you directly build on top of blockchain today, due to the extremely high cost and the long transaction processing delay. And we have released a full range of SDKs, and people are building games, micropayment services, layer 2 decentralized financial services, and messengers integrated with micropayments on top of Settr today. And if you happen to be a developer or know any developer, feel free to check them out. So with that, I conclude my talk today, and I'm available after the talk. And if you have any question related to blockchain, or even ask question of what is a blockchain, I'm happy to answer that. So, yeah, thank you.
모동 셀러 네트워크 공동 창업자님의 발표 잘 들었습니다. 네, 깊이 있는 옵체인 기술로 큰 기대가 되는 프로젝트입니다. 키플랫폼 2019 플러그인앤토크 일부 더 나은 토큰 이코노미를 위하여는 마지막 한 분의 발표를 남겨두고 있는데요. 오후 1시 20분까지 식사 시간을 갖고 이어서 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 식사 맛있게 하십시오. 이상입니다.